implied by the title, I'm going to be joined by a guest in a moment. We've got Mikey Smith, who is a big Doctor Who fan, who is a Twitch streamer online. There are links to his Twitch stream and his Twitter in the description below. But you folks may know him because I did a response video to a Talk Radio, now Talk TV segment where he was brought on by Kevin O'Sullivan. And he very kindly got in touch with me recently in Twitter via DMs, saying wanting to talk about that and all other stuff as well with the current era, recent news. And I'm delighted now to be joined by Mikey Smith. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, dude, not bad. It's funny you're mentioning, about the... I'll say to everyone watching what I said to you then when you were just saying hello to me, is I've always watched your stuff, like back to when you were the man with the trilby. Remember that?
I remember. They
yeah. And, like... Of all the people to do a reaction video, I was like, oh no, not him.
Well,
I like him.
Because I remember doing that in like late 2020, like August, September 2020 when that happened.
Yeah,
and
crazy times.
Yeah, and then about 2 or 3 weeks later, I think, after the response, I saw that you followed me on Facebook, as in my Mr. Tyler's Facebook page. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. But you didn't get angry in my DMs or anything. I just saw that you followed my Facebook page. Like, okay, this is interesting. And then you reach out to me out the blue a couple of weeks ago saying that you wanted to chat. And full disclosure, I don't really know what you want to chat about, or apart from just broad topics. Like, I don't know what you think of my response video or all this other stuff from back in 2020. So I want to know what's on your mind.
Well, it was just, like I say, man, it was just that... Put it this way, right? I've actually watched back I've watched back your reaction video today. And I haven't seen it, like, since. Because at the time when I did that interview, it was just like a crazy time in the world. And that particular interview just happened in a whirlwind for me. So it was like, I probably had a call about 2 hours before. And I did that, and I didn't really think anything of it, because you kind of don't. I do a lot of like pundity type things where you just come on and you talk about one thing, and then they just usher you out, and I do a bit of that, and I didn't really think much of it. And then the sodding thing started like getting loads of views from their account at Talk Radio, because they just started to make the transition to being the Now Talk TV, as you know. Yeah. But at the time, they just started to put on like video content, and I only found out quite late in the day that it was going to be on YouTube as well. And I was like, okay, yeah, cool. And then the thing had, within about 2 days, it had like 40,000 views or something. And I started to feel like uncomfortable. Yeah. Because I'm just like a jobbing actor, right? Yeah, I go on and I do bits for people and funnies, and so it was just a bit like, whoa. And then when you did that, it was like, whoa. And I've watched it today, and to be absolutely fair, everything you raise is perfectly fine. It's like, it's a... Most of what you're annoyed at me about in your reaction, I don't know if folks have seen it, but most of what you're annoyed with me about is more a lack of research than me being, any kind of like political agitator. Because like the way these things work, right, when you go into particularly a station like Talk Radio, that's quite, I think you would agree, quite heavily editorialized.
Yeah, I think they've got their bullet points for the day.
Yeah. So it's kind of like they've got their talking points, right, for the day. So it's more Fox News than Radio 4, right?
Yeah.
So they've got their kind of talking points for the day. And when you go in, everyone's different, but when you go in as a kind of pundit, what you're doing is you're being a kind of sounding board for that. Hopefully you've researched it enough that you don't upset anyone. But what you try and do through it is maintain your red lines. You've got to have red lines. You're not going to be happy to go in and say things that you don't believe, right? Yeah. So you've got to have your red lines, particularly like for me... If I do stuff, I don't like anyone who tries to draw me in politically. Yeah. So I still do punditry for them. And I was in there the other week doing Eurovision, right? Going in as a Eurovision guy, talking about Eurovision. And their talking points are, Eurovision's too political, all that sort of thing. Yeah. So you know, I've been around the block a few times since the interview that you reacted to. So I knew exactly the way it would go, and so I going, yeah, but it's a laugh, you know,
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, when you go in, you're not thinking, okay, I need to be absolutely bang on my research here, and if I mention, I don't know, like a character that I think is too political, or I think is I don't like that character or whatever. Like I wasn't thinking at the time, I really need to know my shizzle, because in my little brain that's just chuffed to have a bit of work come in during lockdown,
Yeah.
I'm just going, yeah, bam, bam, bam. You know, I've got 3 jokes planned. I hope I get them in.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like does that make sense? So
No.
it's
Yeah.
weird, dude, because like I've been on the other side of this when something's wound me up that I've watched or heard. But when you're on that side of it, and I hope, and you do very nicely in your reaction, say, look, I've got no problem with Mikey Smith. You know,
Yeah.
he didn't overstep the mark here.
Yeah,
but when you're
yeah,
that guy,
Yeah, because that's
you know.
because what I wanted to get across. Sorry to interrupt. What I wanted to
No, go for it.
get across with this chat, because while there's some stuff in there that I disagree with, in like from your perspective as well, which we can chat about if you want to. But
Yeah, man.
there's a couple of things where I think you maybe like slightly put your finger on the scale to misrepresent the current run a little bit, like. But I kind of thought that the main issue that I had with the video was mainly from the Kevin O'Sullivan and the talk radio part of it, as in like he's the one who wants to get those talking points in, and you're kind of maybe along for the ride for it. So so that was kind of the, because I rewatched the segment as well. When before this chat as well, and yeah, so I don't think that you're some sort of like, because Kevin like recently did a segment with Nigel Pawley a couple of weeks ago. Basically, I don't know if you've seen my reaction to that one, where they
I haven't seen that. How did that go?
Well, so they basically broke Ofcom regulations by saying that. This was before Legend of the Sea Devils, that if 13 and Yaz do become a same-sex couple, then that's predatory to children. So Nigel Pawley said that, who was the guest, and Kevin didn't push back on it, which broke Ofcom regulations. I don't think you're that type of guest, or that was what you would have gone in and said. So
not in my conservatory. No,
no,
not at all. Like I think, I'd have to watch the clip. And I've got a bit of experience of Ofcom because I used to do a lot of like shopping television, and so like there's loads of ASA and Ofcom stuff there.
Yeah.
You've just said it right there, bud. It depends who said it and what, you know what I mean. Like I'm definitely interested in that now. I'm gonna go and like have a watch of that.
Yeah.
Because I actually do know the team. No, to be fair, I don't know Kevin's producer, but I know like a couple of the other producers. I know like James Wales' producer. And I've not, like, they aren't, I hope this is okay to say, but they're not like a load of evil, like, they're not like, it's not like going into Ming the Merciless's lair when you go to talk radio. They're like people trying to fill the air with something that's lively and confrontational. But I won't comment on it because I need to watch that, because that's not something that I'm happy with.
Yeah, of course. Like,
I would obviously not say it.
I also would recommend maybe watching their clip and then watching my reaction.
Yeah, dude, I will.
Yeah, it's not something I do, but just for your peace of mind as well.
Yeah. This is what I'm saying. It's like, from my point of view, it just sort of niggled me that, like, that's what I wanted to reach out to you. And I think also, like, I think there's an important thing to learn here for, like, all of us, because, like, we've had a really rough ride, like, as Doctor Who. I know fandom doesn't really exist. Like, it's not one thing. Like, fandom is not one thing. But if it was, I feel like fandom's gone through, like, a bit of a tough time. And, it's become divided down, like, political lines in a way that, like, I've not seen before, because... Like, I know a lot of, like, Doctor Who fans who were watching it in the 70s and 80s, right? And I'm not that old, right? But I know some people that are and went through all that. And they're the most, like, left-leaning people you'll ever meet in your whole life.
Yeah.
Like, Doctor Who is a left-wing arm of the BBC. And, like, thank God, and has been like since the early days. Like, look at its original producer and its first writer. Like, this is a diverse left-wing production that at times during the 70s and 80s made some wrong steps in those departments, right? And we both agree about that.
Yeah.
But in general, when you meet people who are Doctor Who fans, like, you're right in the heart of the LGBTQ community. You're right in the heart of people who are on the left of politics. And you're also right in the heart of like people who are really creative, like yourself, who's a Doctor Who fan and is also really creative, right? So that's how I see fandom. So there was a little bit of me, and there's another reason why I fell out with Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Which is more personal and, what do you call it? More biased. But for me, like, suddenly hearing that Doctor Who fans were all these, like, misogynist, patriarchal men, and that the show was fighting against them, and hearing, like, quotes and stuff about it, I was like, my God, I've hardly met a Doctor Who fan who isn't gay. Like, it's like, this is not the fandom that I know. Now, I can understand why people think this, because there's a couple of very vocal people on YouTube who are absolute tossers. And it's such a shame that, I don't know, I mean, don't let me put words in your mouth, but for like people like you, you're almost like you're railing against them.
Yeah.
But they're absolute tossers, and they don't speak in my name, and they don't speak in the name of like anyone who I've ever known who is a fan. It's weird.
Yeah, no, I get you. I think, like, jumping on from that, I think it's...
Yeah.
You'll get those tossers on YouTube who maybe did care about Doctor Who at some point, but now they're online personalities, or they've got online fan bases, and they'll now sort of use Doctor Who as a Trojan horse to incite or to divide audiences. Like,
I agree.
Like, going back to the Kevin O'Sullivan point, he said, like, I don't watch it anymore, but apparently it's super woke, and like, I don't think he'd watch Series 11 or Series 12. Like, he doesn't have to, like, be a die-hard fan and be a moderator of TARDIS Wiki or anything. But I think when, like, you brought up a comparison between, like, of Jack Robertson and Arachnids in the UK, but then he would talk about how, like, Voyage of the Damned, which has got a super unsubtle white capitalist with a golden tooth character. It just seemed like... Yeah, it just seemed like he didn't know about the show, which, like, he doesn't have to. But then he would use that to try and stoke a fire within the audience of people who don't watch Doctor Who, but maybe watch Talk Radio or Talk TV, and get this perception in their head about the show.
I think you're right about how it happens, but I think you're slightly off about why it happens. Like, I genuinely do not think that... I think Talk Radio... I mean, I can't speak for Talk Radio in general, and I can't speak for Kevin either. But I think they're just agitating. Like, I don't think it's definitely not full of like Tories, or it just isn't.
No, I don't think it's like a Doctor Strangelove like big briefing room or anything. Like, it's all in black and white, and they've got I don't think it's like that. But I do.
Well, if it is, they haven't invited me in that room.
No, that's the basement of Talk Radio, and then they go upstairs to the canteen, which is also in black and white. But I also think that they have. Maybe have their talking points, or they have the things that they want to talk about, and they'll use Doctor Who or other pieces of like media, like Star Wars or Star Trek, Marvel, DC, etc., whatever's popular, because Doctor Who is a big British name, and that does get the views. The clip with yourself and Kevin has got like nearly 100,000 views at time of doing this live stream. Yep. Yes. Yep. So I think it's about not necessarily like a big conspiracy, but definitely trying to communicate their some sort of message, even if it's not, here's what we're gonna coordinate today, lads. Like, maybe not like that, but I think there's something complicit going on.
So what I think what happens is, right, it's more like this, right? It's more like, okay, what are we doing today? Okay, we're doing this. And to be honest, like, I've worked at the BBC, and I've been around their journalists, right? And they're pretty similar, right? In that what they do is they go, okay, what's happening today? Okay, right. Okay, what are the talking points? Bam, bam, bam. Okay, it's those three talking points. Let's find someone who believes that, someone who believes that, and someone believes that, and let's talk to them. And it's like, it's very scientific, and it's very like bash, bash, bash. And I think it's probably the same at Talk Radio. It's the same at LBC. It's the GB News, Christ knows, right? But they're doing the same thing. They're kind of going, what are the talking points? I think to talk about Talk Radio for a second, I think where they have evolved, I need to watch that thing you've just mentioned, but like they often now will, it's more balanced in that they'll bring someone on for Kevin, say if it was Kevin or if it's one of the other presenters who comes in with the opposing view, and then the argument of the two opposing views is where the interest comes from, right? So I think they're doing more of that rather than having someone come in to just act as a sounding board for, and I think that kind of works better editorially anyway, because like someone like yourself, for example, would be the kind of contributor that they would absolutely love, right? Now you wouldn't touch them with a barge pole.
Well, if they
would love.
If they invited me on, I'd chat, but I don't think they would.
Mate, they would love it.
Okay,
that's how they've evolved.
I'll take your word on that.
Well, I only know that because like I was in the other night doing a really fun show with James Whale. Like it's become quite an entertainment show. It's quite a nice show, and just before like I went on, he was on rowing with someone about wind turbines and solar power and all this sort of thing. And they had this guy on who really knew his stuff about renewable energy and all this sort of thing. And it was two sides, arguing, rather than two people agreeing that something's rubbish or that whatever. So yeah, I genuinely do not believe, also I wouldn't take any work off them, right? I do genuinely not believe that they are trying to change the country in some way or trying to make it not a nice place to live in or that they're anti anyone. I just think what happens is these debates take place, and as soon as you chuck in a fiery personality like a lot of their presenters are, I don't think they're trying to. I don't think they are malicious. I think they're about what everybody's about these days, which is getting as many listeners, as many clicks as they can. Right?
Well, because you mentioned like BBC and other organisations do this as well, and I think I agree to an extent. But I think
to an extent, but not the same. Yeah.
Well, like the BBC would maybe be way more broad with it because they would talk about like BBC obviously is kind of a monolith in a sense, but they will talk about different things, different perspectives. Like they'll talk about something vastly different from day to day. Whereas I think something like Talk Radio, like the segment that I did recently with Nigel Pawley, at the end of that, I was like, okay, let's go through a few more of the more recent stuff. And they brought on an actor from Coronation Street, whose name I forget. Chat might remind me. But it did genuinely, for that, feel like bullet points. Like they started about woke daffodils, somehow, and then they were like, okay, Disney's LGBT stuff, and then bam, Ukraine, bam, it genuinely felt like these are this is the bullet points we've got to hit. It doesn't matter if our guest knows nothing about Ukraine or Disney, like we want your opinion. So I think it felt way more transparent. So I don't think it is like Doctor Strangelove stuff, but it is a Murdoch arm of like his media empire, and
here's the thing, it is. Mm-hmm. And so there's an element of like everyone's got their audience, right? Mm-hmm. And there's an element of you kind of, what is it Stuart Lee says, like context is not a myth, like it's like there's an element of some people like that easily digestible, what are the main arguments today type stuff. Some people like, LBC do that, but it's more about talking to real people and it's more cerebral in a way sometimes. So it's like horses for courses. It's like some people like that, some people like that, some people like that. Like I think if you took, I think they're more, that's why I say Fox News. I see Talk Radio as more Fox News, Yeah. And the BBC more, I don't know what their equivalent would be in the...
I forget the public
probably CNN is probably more LBC and then Fox,
Yeah, who owns Sesame Street? I forget. Chat will remind me. Chat's very good like that. But
did you just say who owns Sesame Street?
Yeah, well, which is the broadcaster for Sesame Street?
Because that's where did that go?
Because that's the public broadcast.
Is it NBC?
PBS. Thank you, chat. Yes, so PBS
nice
might be the more BBC equivalent.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
As someone who doesn't trust me, there was a through line to that thought. I promise.
I was like, "Whoa! Why are we talking about Kermit? Where did this come in? What's he said? What's he done?"
Mate, I've got my own bullet points. I've got my own. Bam, bam, bam. Now talk.
Has he been on with Kevin Sullivan? Talking about
talk about Ukraine, Mikey. Talk about Ukraine. No, but I think but the difference with that is that you'll have your bullet points and want to appease your audience to an extent. But I think with talk radio, like it's the same bullet points over and over again. Like it is like woke this, woke something. Even if they kind of have to conjure it from thin air, like the daffodils thing. Like I know you've not seen the clips. I won't. You have to kind of take my word from it in this discussion. But with the BBC as well, they'll also, as someone in the chat's pointed out, they will invite two sides to the discussion, whereas what
they've got to, it's in the charter, so
exactly. which is a blessing and a curse to an extent.
Blessing and a curse, absolutely. So we're talking about a very different broadcaster, right?
Yeah,
like the BBC's charter is really constricts their ability to. Most presenters, unless it's clearly signposted in terms of like the editorial of a programme, aren't allowed to give an opinion, not either directly or indirectly, right? So they're not even allowed to... when you're talking to somebody and you go, oh, that's interesting, right? So you're doing an interview and you go, that's interesting. What you could do to show that you think what someone's saying is nonsense is go, that's interesting, right? Yeah. They can't do the second one. Yeah. Because that's against editorial policy. So we're talking about like a totally different animal, and it's about whether when you go into the news agents, whether you pick up the Sun or the Guardian. Well, that's what we're talking about. So we're talking about I see it as just loads of stuff on a shelf, right? And it's just like, well, what do you pick off the shelf? And that's why I'm suspicious of the idea that that all fans over a certain age or whatever don't like Jodie or don't like a trans actress being cast or don't like this, because it's not my direct experience of fans at all. Yeah. And it's not my direct experience of actors from the classic show. It's not my direct experience of commentators from the classic show. It's just like not my experience of fandom. And so I don't believe when these, and let's not say them by name, but these nightmare YouTubers who are, there's like 3 who are bad.
Yeah.
I don't believe them with their rallying call, right? Because I don't care if they get 50,000 views on a video. 50,000 people is not a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't believe them. And I also don't believe the media, across all journalism, when they say things like, the reason why the show, I suppose we're talking about the Jodie years, the reason why the show isn't popular is that people are misogynist and all this sort of thing. I don't believe that either, because I think they're trying to get clicks as well. I mean, even really good journalists, people who work at places like the Guardian and the Observer and stuff like this, like they are really click aware.
Yeah.
In what they do. Like everyone's guilty of this. They're they're clickbaity, really clickbaity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I genuinely don't believe that that fandom, if such a thing exists, is a load of like daft millennials on one side and misogynist Gen X is on the other. Like, it's just not the way it is.
I we
all just love Doctor Who, right?
I agree that there's not you can't draw these really clear lines that are either generational or classic and new, and so, as for the reason why someone dislikes one era over the other. Well, I think when it comes to you can talk about the declining viewing figures of the current era of the show. A lot of it has maybe to do with general TV live viewing figure trends. That does track over the several years, but also like some people don't like the era of the show because maybe it's more ITV drama than it is space opera sci-fi like Russell T Davies. We all have our preferences. I'm not big on the John Pertwee era, like the Quatermass Earthbound stuff. I've got an affinity for it because it's Doctor Who, of course, but we all we all have our preferences. And I also think in a few years from now, people who maybe really did not like the current era of the show, the Chibnall era, might look back on it and remember the really good bits, or maybe they'll, once they're out of this current bubble, they'll think, oh, that one with the talking frog in the chair, that wasn't half bad actually. Like
Fall to Doomsday.
yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh, House. It repeats so much. Nothing's original anymore. But kind of like how I wasn't big on the Moffat era, the later end of the Moffat era. But now looking back on it, I look back more fondly on it because I'm more remembering the good bits, and I kind of skip on rewatches. I skip the Monk trilogy. I skip Hellbent. Heaven Sent is where series 9 ends, in my opinion.
And this is do you know what? Like, here's what's funny about it, right? Because I've got a book upstairs that is a collection of fanzines from the 80s, right? So they've done this really clever idea. They've took loads of bits of different. When I say fanzine, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like Appreciation Society, like self-published stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, self-published, like literally, some dude in Paisley typing it up on a Brother printer.
Yeah.
Pritt sticking pictures of Tegan on there from the Radio Times.
Yeah.
And then photocopying 100 of them and then selling them at conventions, right?
Okay.
That's how its fanzines are.
It was YouTube before YouTube, yeah?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Exactly. And I've got this collection of fanzines. And oh my God, you've just got to read. I need to send it on to you. It's great. It's hard to get hold of, actually, this collection. But it's great because you realise that all of our debates right now were all happening in 1987.
Mm-hmm.
They were all happening when Peter Davison was cast. That was seen as a big sellout at the time. In the 90s, everyone hated the end of Tom's run. So anything like after Key to Time was just hated. And so you realise that part of fandom is the fun of changing tastes and what you like, what he likes, and all this sort of thing. And I think maybe that's what along the lines has been lost, is that all that what was once called kind of bitchiness and people being in clans and cliques within fandom, because of the blooming internet, goes global, right? So it's not like you're at a convention. I only know these stories because I've spoke to people who were at conventions in the 80s. It's not like you're at a convention and you're at one end of the bar talking about how much you love Carnival of Monsters, and at the other end of the bar is a load of people who think that John Pertwee's episodes are all bollocks and he's a misogynist idiot and the stories are awful, right? And you're side-eyeing each other at the bar. Oh, look, it's those Pertwee fans. And over there. And all this stuff was happening like in a smaller way. So it didn't seem so serious because it was just like side sniping and stuff. And because of the internet, I think it just like explodes. But if you read this thing, you'll laugh your head off. Like they're all having a go at each other. It's just like clicking around YouTube.
Yeah, well, sorry to drag the topic backwards a little bit, but I think one reason why that sort of almost fun fan debate still exists in certain pockets, but I think the broader media trend has gotten a bit more hostile in fandom, and the loudest, most controversial voices get dropped, propped to the top because of algorithms and stuff. But when
because of algorithms.
Yeah, but also when it does come to say talk radio and stuff, it's not even necessarily because of clicks, because this is me maybe looking a little bit too closely here, but Murdoch outlets like The Sun, it hasn't been profitable for years. Stuff like Talk TV is not profitable. But they keep it going because it's not necessarily about getting clicks or making money. It's about sort of shifting the conversation. I think it's about co-opting media or popular media to try and like stoke conflict, and the maybe inadvertently the effect does maybe have right-wing political implications. Playing devil's advocate here, maybe it's not the intended consequence of it, but I think that there is like some thumb on the scale stuff here.
So without getting drawn too deeply for obvious reasons, right? The idea that talk radio isn't profitable, that's not true. So it is profitable.
Okay.
Talk TV isn't profitable because it's just started.
Okay.
And so, I think there is a like assumption that, you know, print media is dead, they're not making any money. Like, they are, and they're making money out of clicks.
Well,
like everybody's making money out of clicks.
There was a lawsuit like maybe a year ago where talk radio was taken to court for slander, and the lawyers argued that so few people were watching that they were allowed to get away with it.
Because if I was a lawyer, I'd say that as well.
Yeah, but like,
because
sort of
very
like,
few people were watching.
Yeah, so isn't that like, if not enough people are watching, how is it profitable?
All I know is, like, I can only tell you that talk radio wouldn't exist if it wasn't profitable. I think they get 500,000 listens a week. Mm-hmm. So it is profitable, but talk TV, because it's new, and if you can imagine, like, the big names they've got on there, you know, the outlay must be massive. So yeah, I think I can only speak personally, right?
Yeah.
I just come in occasionally, and you know, but talk radio is a profitable thing. Talk TV isn't yet, and I think like it's just and talk TV is just like a baby, really. It's just like started.
Yeah. So talk TV, we'll separate that because that is so recent. That's fair.
Yeah. But I mean to the answer of, you know, do they have an overarching political agenda? Like, I don't know. I'm just a job in, you know, what do I know? All I can say is that when someone like me goes on to do a quick interview,
yeah,
I'm not sworn in under oath, and I haven't. I definitely, like, on reflection, like, I've watched back the interview, like, on reflection, like, my research is horrendous.
Well, to be fair, I thought you were talking about Syl when you were actually talking about Slugman from Twin Dilemma. So these mistakes fall through. But
yeah, of course. But honestly, like, I didn't have much prep for that interview. I knew because I'd sort of stopped watching it after the first one. And then I sort of thought, okay, what are people arguing about? I'll just watch a couple. And that's what I did. And so what I didn't see is what I would know. You know, if we were talking about Russell T Davies, his, you know, the Series 4, Donner's Ark. Like, if we were talking about that, I'd be like, yeah, man. Because, like, I've watched all of that and I can understand where stuff's going and all that sort of thing. I didn't have that. So I had very little time. So I was just like, okay, right. What are people talking about? I'll watch that one and I'll watch that one.
Yeah.
You know? And so, out of interest, by the way, and I want to put this out in the atmosphere so as it's clear, is at the time, I was down on Doctor Who. I was down on Doctor Who. I'd had a really good relationship with the BBC under Moffat's reign, where all of their events and PR and screenings were done by London, which was the PR team who were basically attached to the exec. And then what happened was, under Chibnall's run, the whole thing like closed down. Like, even within the organisation, it was like you could not talk. It went really weird. They just closed everything down. And part of that was that they handed over all their premieres and events to the Manchester event team, who were not the most charismatic people in the world, whereas the London team had been. And so I had that. I that was sort of tossed in as an experience.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So you are a product of the times, aren't you? And at the time, they caught me in a bit of a bad mood. About the era because of the way that Chibnall's team were operating within the BBC.
Yeah. Because we also got the impression as fans as well, like everything was like all closed off from the outside, like very secretive productions.
Insane.
And even like Doctor Who magazine, like Chibnall's only maybe done 2 or 3 interviews with them over the 5-year span.
The way they treated DWM was disgusting. The whole thing just closed down. It was really, really weird, and I couldn't understand it because the way that Russell and Stephen had dealt with fandom, the way that they dealt with DWM, which is a really important like arm of fandom. It always has been in my brain anyway. Yeah. Like, it just wasn't very nice and inclusive, and it just wasn't nice. And so when you've got that in your brain and you watch one of his episodes and you hear his dialogue, which at times is pretty rotten, right? Mm-hmm. You're not feeling charitable about it. Because you're like, why are you guys being so like hostile? Yeah. And I'm not just talking to fans. I'm talking like to like the BBC at large. You know, what's the problem? You know.
But so we've got 2 minutes left on this call. Shall we quickly restart another one?
Yeah. Okay. Good idea.
All good. And then I'll pick up on that. Okay.
Can I go for a wee as well?
You may. Yes, I will send you an invite, and then you can hop in whenever you're ready. Yeah, we're back
live on. Or not?
We are still live. We're all good. I just made small talk with the chat. So
did you?
I did. Many of them also went for a toilet break as well. So it's a communal experience.
There we go. We go.
Fans, Doctor Who fans, we debate together, we watch the show together, and we together. We together. We
just like we all did in the 80s. You know, we all weed together.
See, I wasn't there for that, but that sounds like a logistical nightmare. But
well, me neither. But I've got to call you out on this. So in your reaction video, you say something like, "Oh, this is Mikey Smith, and he used to work for Doctor Who events back in the day." And you made me feel about 50 when you said that. And I was like, what does he mean by back in the day?
Well, you mentioned it offhandedly in the original video, because you was like, yeah, I used to do some events for the BBC. I can't remember the end of that sentence. So I was going to sort of springboarding off of that. So sorry for the existential crisis.
That's all right. No, I have existential crises like a couple of times a day at the moment. I don't know if you're the same.
They're an hourly occurrence, but the live streams help to stave it away. Anyway, sorry, all this toilet talk has thrown me. Well, so
you can't remember where we were.
Yes, okay, so the hostile reaction from like the BBC or their lack of communication with not just fans but almost like institutions within the fandom, like press events or the magazine.
Yeah, they just closed down.
Like
they just closed down a bit. Yeah, and I got a bit.
There's an interview one of 3 that Chris Chibnall has done for Doctor Who magazine where he says that like he just wants to write and he doesn't want to do he doesn't really enjoy the interviews and the press stuff. Which
not buying that.
Well, personally, I can tell he always seems a little bit uncomfortable with the public speaking, and I don't think he has to, but I think
he's a showrunner, isn't he? Come on.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not expecting everybody to be charisma machines like Stephen Moffat, but I think that there should still be a face of the show, even if it's not Chibnall. It's somebody.
Even if it's a producer,
like a Kevin Feige, who doesn't write the Marvel Cinematic Universe films, but he's a great face for them and speaker. I think that it's one thing I'm hoping that Russell T Davies does when he comes back. That communication.
Well, I think we can be sure he will. You know, I think like half the problem with him doing that is I think he put too much on Geordie's shoulders. I really do, and I don't think that's part of the problem because it's not her fault. You know, she's a great actress. Anybody who knows her prior work, and actually, in preparation for this this chat, we were talking, weren't we, about stuff I should watch.
Yeah,
from the new series. Cause
I gave you like 6 episodes, and I was like, "That's maybe unfair. I don't know what your schedule's like."
So I watched Demons of the Punjab.
Yes,
and I watched it earlier today, actually.
Okay,
and she's great. There's no problems there.
Yeah.
You know, the problem is the fact that I don't know. I mean, like I'm watching it, and you've got Tosin Cole sitting there. What's his character he plays in it?
Ryan.
He's got about 9 lines.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's going on here?
Because
even like Bradley struggling. It's like there's just not enough writing going on.
Because I love Demons of the Punjab, but I still feel like Yaz, even though it's her family history, is quite underserved in that story. Like, conceptually, I really did... Like, I think Series 11 out of the Chibnall era is my favourite of the three. But it's
a good concept.
Yeah, I think conceptually it's really... It's an interesting return to form from, like, the original Sidney Newman, Verity Lambert... original concept.
I agree.
And also the fam, which gives them like they're more of a unit, which works logistically because it means that you don't have two actors who have to carry a whole series and they get worn out for the scheduling. So you balance the load a bit more. But I think the episodes and the stories weren't structured with the four characters in mind. I think it was a good idea to get away from the Clara, impossible girl who waited, the companion's the center of the universe. I think it was good to get away from that, but the stories didn't accommodate that format, which is why I think stuff like the novels and the comic books have done a really better job of expanding the fam as a concept.
Yeah. Totally agree. I think the fam doesn't suit the form. It just doesn't. I'm watching somebody talking and three frustrated actors stood behind them. You know, it's like, and I that's got to be down to Chibbers, hasn't it? You know that, and also like there's a weird thing that goes on when you watch it. And by the way, I'm with you. It's a great concept, and I actually got goosebumps when, you know, when they revealed that they were witnesses.
Yes, and
they said basically this jar is our not entire planet, which is a bit like, you know, if you've ever watched The Pirate Planet, which is a Tom Baker story. He went one more. He went, so this is all the people and the planet. This is our entire existence in this jar. And I got goosebumps. And I was like, that is such a gorgeous... Oh, that's such a gorgeous concept. But the problem is that all the people in the story, not all the time, because it's full of great actors, they kind of speak like they're in the trailer.
Yeah.
So everyone kind of speaks like they're doing... You know how, like, a lot of Russell T Davies stories, about 2/3 in, either the Doctor or a companion would get a big speech where Murray Gold would like get the violins in, and you know it'd be like whoa, and it'd be like I'm going to do this and you know those big moments. It was like it's like Chibbers thinks all of it should be at that level, so everything's at this kind of everyone speaks in like prose, like everyone kind of speaks like they're making a speech rather than like the way people just chat. And I think that's where Russell T Davies is quite good, because he's good at dialogue. I think Russell T Davies has got a good ear for the way that people actually talk in real life.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing Barry Letts being interviewed, who was the producer pretty much all through John Pertwee.
Yeah.
And he said that like the amount of time they spent on people's scripts to just change the dialogue to make it more like people speak.
Yeah.
Rather than actors having to spout a message.
Yeah.
You can do the message, but you can do it just in the way that people speak.
Yeah.
And I think Chibbers is really, really struggling in that story with that. But I did get goosebumps with the whole idea of that was their whole civilization in a jar. I was like, oh my God, that's awful. You know, I was like, wow.
Yeah, it's because I think Vinay Patel, who wrote that story, was it co-written by Chibnall? Either way, he's like the driving force of that. It was like the relationship that Yaz has with her nan. It was based off of his relationship with his nan, and the watch was one
that's
for one.
Nice.
Yeah, well, that was basically his family. It was based off of that, and this does sound like me trying to put the message before the story, but I love that it is the partition of India, something that is not talked about in schools that frequently. And
I agree. That was actually, I've written that down. I was like, I like how I am. It kind of goes back to Verity Lambert.
Yeah.
I like how I'm learning something, genuinely learning something. It's not like history karaoke that you get in some of the Peter Davison stories.
Yeah.
Where you're quite aware that thing happened and you're not really learning anything new. It's like history karaoke. I did like it because I was like, I didn't know that they literally drew those boundaries, and suddenly Muslims and Hindus were split along these lines, and I was like, whoa, I didn't know. So I like all that.
Yeah, and the chat's just corrected. It's Vinay Patel he's got sole writing credit. It's not co-written by Chibnall. And I think you can tell as well. It seems a bit more thoughtful than like.
That's interesting because I'm just assuming that he's got his copy and paste over everything.
Oh, I'm sure he has some influence on every script, as he kind of should as the showrunner. In the commentary for The Doctor's Wife that Neil Gaiman does, he's very open about, that was a Moffat line. That was a Moffat line.
Have you read The Writer's Tale?
I'm about halfway through it. I've been slowly making dents in it over the past year.
Yeah, that's so. For people that don't know, it's like Russell T Davies being interviewed by
Benjamin Cook,
and you realise like how much of a collaboration every script is. And so when I'm saying that, when I'm talking about Chibs and Chibnall, I'm talking about his hand in the script, and I'm just like why is there's just an interesting moment right at the start. Okay, so it jumps right in, which I really like, by the way. It jumps right in, and you've got Yaz sitting there with her grandparents and her sister and stuff around a table. And I thought, oh, this is quite nice. Quite like jumping straight in like this, you know. Mm-hmm. But the bloody music is treating it like the finale. So the music's going, whoa, 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 and I feel like I'm watching Aliens. Yeah. I'm like, what is going on here? Yeah. And maybe it's that. Like, you work in television. You know how finely balanced all this is. I direct for theatre, and I know how finely balanced all this is. And one little thing that's not quite right can completely throw what's going on. Mm. Maybe it's the blooming music, but when it came on, I was like, whoa, what's happening?
Maybe the mix isn't too great. It's never stood out for me, but now I feel like I won't be able to watch it without...
You've got to watch it now. Exactly. Oh, my God.
I'm going to be here. I'm going to be really conscious of it. So, it means the mix has nowhere else to go, which is a shame, because I think in Demons of the Punjab, the soundscape otherwise, if it is so thoughtfully done, like how they hear about the drawings of the line through the radio broadcasts. At night, you hear guns echoing across the landscape. Like the discontent isn't just in the text; it's in the air. It's something.
That's good. That's great stuff.
Yeah.
But you know what? That stuff would be greater if the whole. It's like the whole thing is treated as though it's all up there. Like the whole thing is treated like it's in the trailer. Mm-hmm. It's all boom. Everything's like, this is important. Like the way it's directed and the music, it's like, this is important. But it's like everything's important. And you know what it's like. If everything's important, nothing's important, right?
I feel like that's the ITV drama sentiment of Series 11.
Maybe that's what it is. And maybe I don't watch enough ITV dramas to suss out what the issue is there. But I was like, there's something off here. Also, I don't know the director. Maybe you do. But they're doing a thing which is very 80s, which is that they're not trusting the cast. So when someone has a reaction shot, they're pushing the camera in. Like, literally zooming in. A bit like, have you ever watched Trial of a Time Lord?
Yeah, when Colin Baker cliffhanger stings, yes.
Yeah, they're doing that. Like, people are just going... oh, I don't know what's going to happen next. And it's like, whoa, come on, calm down, you know. And there's just something that's, I don't know. But I watched it and I thought, I'm quite enjoying this. I thought it was good.
Yeah, like I know that we've got some disagreements, but I'm not here to say, like, you must like this story. Like, I think as long as maybe we can communicate and we understand why we don't like or we like certain parts of the era. I guess my issue when it comes to like online discourse is sometimes where it just feels like it's flatly misrepresented. Like I can't remember exactly. I think when during your original Kevin clip with on Talk Radio, like there was I don't know if you explicitly say it, but I think the sentiment is that, you know, the current era is just it's all the white guy villains, and that's the identity.
Yeah.
Whereas some people have actually done the numbers, and like white male villains are the vast minority in Series 11.
It's complete bollocks.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying. It's complete bollocks. So what I've done is Under Pressure, I've gone, okay, what are people annoyed about? Let me watch that, you know? Like, so what I'm doing there is not it's not coming from like a fully informed.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's
Trust me.
malicious or anything, but I think it's a broader trend that's not just confined to that video.
It is a broader trend, yes, and it's not just me, and it's not just talk radio. It's a broader trend, right?
Yeah.
People are looking to just like they're always looking for a little moment that can be grabbed and clicked, right? So everything's so transient now. You know, if I was doing what I do now, right, and it was in I don't know, like the mid-90s or whatever, and I was going on a national broadcaster, trust me. I would know my shit inside out, right? Mm-hmm. But now there's so much of everything that there's not enough time in the world for everyone that appears to know everything about it. Mm-hmm. There's just not enough time in the world to fill the hours of content.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about mainstream media. I'm talking about podcasts, YouTube Live, Twitch, like Instagram Live. I'm talking about the world of media. It's so massive now that nobody's got the time to fully appreciate a subject when they go in to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And that's an issue. Yeah. And I in that scenario, I'm completely guilty of it. But I think, having watched it back, I do keep my red lines, and I don't say because I'm not anti-women.
Oh no, I never got this. I think you pushed back a couple of times on him as well.
I tried, because
I think Kevin is. You're more closer to him than I. I'm not saying you're on his Christmas card list or anything, but you've actually had interactions with him. But I kind of get the vibe that he is just. Women probably shouldn't really be on TV. And that sounds like an extreme opinion, but Jeremy Clarkson, for example, has literally written articles saying that women shouldn't be working at the BBC, and he used Doctor Who. Oh yeah,
oh my God.
Yeah, he did like this was what I was on about earlier, like using media as a Trojan horse. He wrote an article for The Sun, I think, and it opened with Doctor Who, don't watch it, never watched it. Apparently the viewing figures aren't good. By the way, here's why women shouldn't be working at the BBC, and also why it's Holocaust denial is something that you shouldn't really do because it's dumb. No, it was the other way around. He was making fun of people who combat Holocaust denialism, which is a really weird way to plant your flag. And it's like, what are you what's instigated the write-up for this,
Yeah, was this Jeremy Clarkson?
Yeah, for The Sun, I think it was. This was this was back in 2019, I think.
I think also as well, this idea that that strong female characters is a new thing is not quite on the money. So he's starting on a false premise, really. There's been so many great BBC shows over the years that have had really, really strong female characters, and also films that have had really strong female characters. I think where particularly British TV has really failed people in the 70s, 80s, 90s is in their casting of people of ethnicity. But when you hear the producers talk about why they didn't cast an actual Chinese person in that part, you kind of think, okay, that kind of makes sense within the context of... But I think to myself, when they say, oh, but there weren't any Chinese actors to play that part, I'm like, well, what you really mean is that there weren't any in your copy of Spotlight that you had on the shelf behind you.
Yeah, or you didn't go out of your own bubble for it.
Yeah. So that's what they really mean. So I think that's where 70s, 80s, 90s television really failed people in terms of diversity. And still does, by the way. There's loads of ways that casting fails people in terms of diversity. One of my bugbears, and a lot of people try and push this thing, is that sometimes what happens is you go, okay, we want to be diverse and we want to show our diversity, so we're going to cast a black actor, and you think, well, great, fantastic. But what they'll do sometimes is they'll cast a black actor who's the right black actor. Someone from an upper class background who is sort of someone who's safe for them. But what they don't do is go out to communities and find raw talent and find people who are from a working class background, who come from an impoverished or disadvantaged background. I feel like that hasn't happened yet, and that's what I like is when I see that, and I do see it sometimes, to be fair, where they've gone out and they found someone absolutely amazing who was working at who was doing a Sunday acting class in Wolverhampton.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, this guy's amazing. So, like, I think that, like, diversity should also include diversity of class.
Yeah, I
on top of all the other great.
Yeah, I 100% agree as well. I think because it's often why it is like often the same like circle of the same like maybe 20 or 30 like LGBT actors or black actors or of other ethnicities. Like when people say that it's like organizations like the BBC are super like diverse and identity politics casting, like it is still in its own bubble of exclusion. Which
not always. Well. Not always. Let's not knock them. Not always. Sometimes they do. Especially CBBC is really good at this. They do go out to schools and drama classes and find people. So not always.
Yeah.
But for the big shows, a little bit.
Yeah.
There's people who've gone to private school and you think, okay, they haven't had that much of a struggle. Yeah. But like, so I think it's really important, and this is the only thing I don't like about 70s, 80s, 90s Who. I think it's really important that we genuinely represent, and that it's diverse and all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And so the idea that I'm not averse to the Doctor being female, but I just think I just felt as though, and when I say, and I think I said this in the interview, that it was being politicised, it was not that I thought that, because I didn't know enough about the show, to be honest, at the time. Mm-hmm. It's not that I thought that the stories were political. I just didn't like the fact that all people were talking about was she's female. Some people don't like it. Some people do. Peter Davison said this. I just thought, what a shame, give the girl a chance. And when I watch her in Demons of Punjab, she's obviously a great actress. And me and Jane, my wife, had watched her in a drama. What was it called? She was great in that.
Was it when she was pretending to be a doctor?
That's the one!
Trust me. Yeah. That's what it's called.
Fantastic. But I feel as though, like, watching Demons of the Punjab, like, all the weighty stuff they give to everyone.
Yeah.
I felt like some of it should be shoved in her direction. And so she doesn't have those, like Tennant, Tennant's on the other scale. The script treats David Tennant like he's a messiah, and I think maybe the script with Chibnall doesn't give her enough of that, which is tricky.
Yeah, going back to the because one thing that I guess reminded me, one reason I do like Jodie Whittaker's casting outside of the gender
writing.
change, of course, and she's I loved her in Adult Life Skills. That's a British indie comedy. She's great in that.
Oh, should I watch that?
You should watch that, yeah. Or at least check out the. It is like quirky comedy, so check out the trailer. And if you're not vibing with the trailer, you can skip it. But she is really good in it.
She can do comedy. You can see that when she does the Doctor. She can do comedy.
Yeah, but but it's also the fact that she kept her Huddersfield accent, because it's so one thing why I really thought was interesting in Christopher Eccleston's biography, I Love the Bones of You. He was talking about how he really loves in his roles being able to keep his Mancunian accent and his working class accent, something which in even as recent as the 90s you couldn't really do on the BBC. Have a lead in a tempo drama with a working class accent.
As recent as 2006, you honestly, up until about the mid 2000s, people were being encouraged to RP.
Yeah,
it's really recent, this problem.
Yeah, and he's saying now, like, because he went to public school and he was able to go to drama school when he was growing up in the 80s and the 90s. But now
he got a bursary.
He can't possibly see anyone from his background doing it in like right now. It is shutting out people of certain classes. So I think like you can say like maybe the casting of Jodie Whittaker's been politicized or overly emphasizing first female Doctor, and that's the headlines because you want to get the broad strokes. But that she's a woman in a sci-fi genre show, working class accent, Huddersfield accent, and also wearing the aesthetic of being a pacifist, which the show never really upholds during the era. Like Arachnids in the UK, not a good story, suffocating all the spiders, and all of the other forms of violence that the Doctor partakes in during the era. There's a lot of politically I don't agree with the era, but so I think that the aesthetics because of a pacifist female sci-fi icon with a working class accent. That is inherently just interesting, diverse casting. But when it's boiled down to she's a woman, therefore political, I think that's kind of sussy.
And it's a shame, really, because if you look into her, she isn't from... Because a lot of people, as you will know, and you work in telly, a lot of people you work with in the acting fraternity are from quite a privileged background, right?
Yeah, I'd say so.
And she's not. She's not. You know, she's the real deal. And it's a shame that wasn't the story. The whole thing became about her being female, and her being female. I mean, it stands out because it's like, oh, okay, we're doing something different now. But it never really upset me. And interestingly, the older fans that I know, it never really upset them. Like I've genuinely never met anyone in real life who's gone, no, the Doctor can't be a girl. I've never, ever... Because, you know, the Rani, you know, it's like... The Rani's first appearance is 1987?
Yeah, you know, ballpark, yeah.
Yeah, and it just was never an issue. And it's a shame that it kind of... it is a shame that it kind of become that. Have you can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Have you your thoughts around Chris Chibnall? Like, have you found that they've like changed over time, or like where are you with this era at the moment?
Well, so when he was announced, I was a Chibnall apologist because I did generally like his pre-showrunner output. Like, I really had a soft spot for 42, for Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, a lot of his Torchwood stuff, and I'd seen series 1 of Broadchurch at the time, and I really liked it. So I thought, I think I also...
It's supposed to be amazing. I've never watched it, but I've heard it's really good.
Really good, really great cast. And also, I even liked a lot of his plays before he got into TV. There's a great play called Kiss Me Like You Mean It, which is it's a great, like... Act 1 is a two-hander between these two teenagers in front of a nightclub. Act 2 is a two-hander between these old people who live in an apartment above the nightclub, and then they go... Yeah. It's actually pretty good, and there's some actually really great witty dialogue in it.
Random thought, I'm just going to chuck it in. That's also the name of Gene Wilder's autobiography. Just thought I'd chuck that in.
Oh, really plagiarist. So nothing's original, not even the talking frog. But and also because I wasn't too big on Stephen Moffat when the announcement was made. I liked Series 10, so I warmed to him towards the end. And then, I kind of liked the decisions he was making. I was okay with like moving it to Sunday, casting of Bradley Walsh. I was skeptical because I'd never seen him as an actor, but he proved me wrong there.
He's a good actor.
I liked Series 11 as a vibe. I think there's some really great stories in it, although not specifically written by Chibnall. It Takes You Away, Witchfinders, Demons of the Punjab. Those are the standouts for me. And then as it kind of went along, I got the sense that between every series, he had a massive philosophy change as to how he wanted to run the series. All three of his seasons feel like they're written by entirely different showrunners, but they're still...
It's called Panic.
Yeah, I got that sense. Series 11 didn't have enough recurring villains and recurring stuff, and so we're going to throw in the Master. The Morbius Doctors are canon now, and I don't envy him for Series 13 for Flux, because that, I imagine, was a production nightmare, and even if it came out the other side incredibly terribly, I would still be like, you know what? You gave us 6 episodes during a pre-vaccine was when they started filming. On that scale, directed beautifully by Azur Salim and Jamie Magnus Stone. So I would admire that. But the fact that I think it worked until the ending, kind of dug it. But I'm happy to see fresh blood now. Well, I say fresh blood is Russell T Davies. So,
Yeah.
but I think each season has gotten progressively weaker as it's gone along, but for very different reasons.
I'm like, it's funny because I feel really excited again at the moment. Like,
Same.
Shooty's very good in. Have you seen him in Sex Education?
Yeah, I'm a season and a half in, really enjoying it.
He's very good. He's like, so me and my wife went to the same drama school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a one in London called the Paul School, and it's all about like, don't act, just do. It's all about just stop acting, just do it, right? And he's great at that, and that kind of excites me. His kind of throwaway way of acting is very exciting to the likes of me and Jane. We both feel the same about him, so we're pretty excited about this.
Yeah.
Plus, obviously, we've got Russell T Davies excitement as well. So I've got a good feeling. I don't know, like, is that how you feel?
Yeah, because I'm watching Sex Education, and I don't imagine. What's his? I want to say Eric. That's his character's name in Sex Education.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I don't imagine Eric and the 14th Doctor are going to have much overlap in terms of personality.
In the same way as, Peter Davison in Sink or Swim was not the same as Peter Davison in Doctor Who.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever watched Sink or Swim?
I've
It's
seen
awful.
clips of it. I've seen. Is it really bad?
It's really bad sitcom, yeah.
But yeah, I and also I don't expect. Well, there may be some crossover. Like there's some like Casanova crossover with David Tennant and some
A little bit,
and some
yeah.
and some Malcolm Tucker with Peter Capaldi.
Sometimes.
A little bit. But there's some scenes when in Sex Education when Eric sort of like his whole campy, flamboyant, big personality. That's not a put on. That is what he's like. But there are times when that does become like the background a bit, and he has genuine moments with people. I'm not saying
It's when he's vulnerable.
Yeah,
he's a very vulnerable actor,
and the way
that's what excites me.
Yeah, the way he holds himself in front of that camera, he's got he has presence, even though in the show he's a teenager. And how old is he? He's 28, 29 now. I think he's on par with Peter Davison in terms of age when he was the Doctor. So we are going young again, but still somebody who I think can. Who has poise and dignity and is able to, and once again, it'll be interesting having him exposit technobabble and dialogue. Just like I love hearing, like Saranga Conundrum, if you've rewatched that, when the 13th Doctor talks about the particle accelerator on the spaceship. And it is just a minute of technobabble, but she holds it, and I love it. She sounds so invested in it. I love hearing Eccleston do technobabble.
Oh, I do as well. Yeah. Yes.
That's why I love Big Finish when he does Big Finish as well.
Okay, so we haven't talked Big Finish. Can we do that before I go?
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
Oh, I love Big Finish. So it's funny, actually, because they've announced Yasmin Finney as Rose, which I have a fan theory on this, as to how that's going to work. And it was like, first transgender lady in Doctor Who, and I was like, yes, very happy about that. I've got a lot of friends who that means a lot to them. It means a lot to me.
Not to be cliche, but you say you come from theatre. Say
again.
You say you come from theatre, so I imagine there's a very prominent LGBT community. I imagine around here.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
100%. It's the safe. I mean, like, you're so lucky to be a theatre actor. It's the safest, most comfortable. It's like being in a womb, like being in rehearsals and in shows. Anyway, I could talk about that all day. But what also got me when the media were going, okay, first transgender was. Have you listened to Stranded by Big Finish?
No, but I know who you're on about. Yeah, I forget.
Tanya.
Yeah.
Tanya Bell. Yeah. So basically, Stranded, you've got to listen to first off,
okay,
because it's got the best setup ever. Where basically, like, Paul McGann's Doctor is with Liv, who's from the same planet as like who was in Robots of Death, and Helen, who's from the 50s or 60s. But anyway, they've been through loads of adventures, and basically the TARDIS stops working. It actually disappears. Like, they open the door and there's nothing in there. A bit like in Father's Day, where they open the door and there's nothing in there?
Yeah.
And they're stranded in modern day London, and he has to move back into Baker Street, which, if you know your Big Finish, you know why he's in Baker Street.
Okay.
And Liv ends up in a relationship with the transgender character who lives in this Baker Street house. Mm-hmm. And I cannot, you've got to listen to this, but it's the most sensitive and beautiful treatment of a transgender character that I've seen thus far.
Okay.
Like, big shout out to Big Finish. It's just, it's so beautiful.
But I do remember, like, there was obviously from Dickheads on YouTube, but it was like all of a sudden, Big Finish has gotten political now. It's sort of like just the idea of just like, when it's boiled down that much to that's what your line is for too political. Like that's,
they haven't listened to enough Big Finish. Big Finish, because it's made by fans from the 80s, right? Pretty much predominantly.
Yeah.
They're also left leaning. It's always been, Big Finish has always been left leaning, political, open, diverse. Like, Big Finish is such a lovely place to live in. Like, and it's meant a lot to me over the years. Big Finish has, like, makes me feel it's meant a lot to me. Big Finish, it's such a nice world to live in, and the way that they treat that first transgender character was just beautiful. It was like they did it in such a way that the fact that Tanya is trans doesn't define her in any way. Mm-hmm. She just is.
Yeah,
and Liv loves her. And that's it. It's it's so beautifully written. And I'm not sure who handled the first episode where it was handled the best, but it has been handled great all the way through. Probably John Dorney, because he's one of the best writers. But yeah, it's really, really, really nice. So I'm going to send you an illegal link to Big Finish.
Okay, this has been this has been a sting operation the whole time. Go, go, go.
Well, I bought it. It's only illegal if I share it. Yeah. So you're the thief, not me.
Oh, great! Now
in that,
you've made me complicit in a crime.
But honestly, Stranded's gorgeous. You'll love it.
I've heard people like it's once again, I think, like almost a generational thing where people do think like either Stranded is just Big Finish running out of ideas, or it's the new reinvention of the Eighth Doctor. I've heard it as a bit of a polarizing series, but I'm making my way.
That's interesting.
I'm making my way through like early days Paul McGann at the moment, because I'm relatively new to Big Finish of like last year when I really started getting into it.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Yasmin Finney in whatever they do for the specials next year, or special, who knows, whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
But I am once again, like, going back to the start of the topic, I'm worried that it's just going to. It could be she plays a character called Rose, who is but it just like. It's like hardly, maybe never ever brought up that she's trans or gender identity or whatever, and then it's just her being there makes it, quote, political. I'm worried that that's what the media narrative's gonna be, and that's what I'd want to push back on. Not saying you, but.
And so you should. I really think that I think Russell will do such a good job with it. I just think it'll be fine. And my little fan theory, I don't know what the chat, because I've not had the chat up all night, but like, my fan theory is that it's Donna's. My fan theory is it's going to be Donna's daughter through some kind of, we join her later or something. It's going to be Donna's daughter, and she calls her Rose because of, obviously, like, Rose helping her out and everything, and those great episodes when they were together. So I think it's Donna's daughter is what I think.
Yeah. Whether it's same universe or parallel universe, I think the possibilities are endless, and that's exciting.
Yeah, I am genuinely, like, so. I mean, this is the thing, right? I'm a massive Doctor Who fan. I'm just ridiculous. Like, you can't see him, but I've got K9 there. Can you see the bottom of him?
Yeah, I saw you bring him out on a recent Talk Radio clip.
There you go. Yeah. So I am like, hang on a minute. There you go. There he is. There you go.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm a massive Doctor Who fan. I'm a total. I really like Moffat. I really liked what Russell did. Moffat became a bit mystery box, didn't he? And that became a bit annoying.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I'm a big Doctor Who fan, and but you know, I still hate stuff do you remember when Russell did the stories that were in like set in like 10 Downing Street?
Yeah.
With the farting aliens and stuff. I mean, that was awful. It was shit.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just part of the, you know, like, and this is what you were saying before, actually, mate. You know, you were saying how with a bit of time you change your opinion and you reevaluate. You know, it's like stuff that was annoying me at the time now just seems quirky and fun. And I reckon that when I get my act together, I'll go back and watch Jodie's stuff, and I haven't watched enough of it at all, and I'll see the good in it. But you do from a distance. It's weird. We're all like that.
Yeah, there's some stories that once you're removed from it being current and it becomes maybe nostalgic, or we've got more Doctor Who now, so we can sort of pick and choose what we really like.
Yeah, and we can stop putting that under the microscope because we've kind of moved on. And that's human nature, you know, and...
the Human Nature is a Series 3 story with written by Paul Cornell, and
isn't it good though?
It's very good. But we've got less than a minute left on the Zoom chat. We'll start another one, and then then we can do. I don't want to cut you off with plugs and stuff, so you can talk about what you do and everything on Twitch.
Okay,
yeah?
I'm just going to come back from a bit because I keep getting texts from my wife because she's making a special meal tonight.
Okay, but
so what I'll do is I'll come back for a bit. Say goodbye properly. Is that okay?
Yeah, like 5 minutes tops, yeah? How about that?
All right, dude.
Chris,
see you in a sec.
I'll do another call. Zip.
All right, dude. See you in a sec. Bye.
It said free. Oh, we ended that right on the dot, 40 minutes. We'll do one more so he can do his plugs. And also, so Matt Fitton wrote the first story of Stranded. Also, thank you for getting rid of the spam bot. Also, I think it might have been Doctor Who fan Jay. You don't need to delete comments that are anti Jodie Whittaker era. Like, that's fine. Like, you can keep you can keep opposing opinions. That's absolutely fine. You don't need to be so banhammer. And also, so Yasmin Finney's not the first trans actress in Doctor Who, but she might be the first one with a major role. There was Bethany Black in Sleep No More playing 474 as Sean Luca. They mentioned it in the chat. Bloody Outlook. But I'll give the first what looks to be a main character. And also, people mentioning Jessie Gender in the chat. I think she follows me on Twitter. See if we can get her on stream one day. I know she's mainly into Star Trek and stuff, but we'll convert. We'll make a bigger Doctor Who fan of her yet. Yo. Right, let me full screen you, and we'll bring you back in. Lovely. Cool. Great stuff. And we're in. Great stuff.
Hello.
Because I didn't want to, you've got 1 minute to let us know what you and your wife do on Twitch. But Mike, it's been great. It has been great chatting with you. I appreciate.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, man.
I appreciate you coming on, especially you didn't have to reach out, even though I'd done a response ages ago. You didn't have to. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed the chat.
Me too. Stay in touch, buddy. You know, the thing about Doctor Who fans, right? We've got much more in common than we have not. You know, we all love it, don't we? You know, and like I said at the start of the call, I love your videos. I love your point of view. I'm a big fan of it, and that's why it niggled me. You know, I was like, oh, I don't think he understands me. I need to talk to him. So it's been a real pleasure. You've not let me down. You're a cool guy.
No, thank you. And if you can get me on Talk TV, me and Kevin will hash it out. That would be
right. I'm gonna text.
You've got his number.
Well, I haven't got his number.
Oh, okay.
But I've got a producer's number who knows his. So you know, it's kind of I'll pass it along. Yeah, but honestly, I've watched that.
If he wants a counterpoint about casting Ncuti Gatwa and Yasmin Finney or whatever, I'd happily chat.
Oh man, it would be. Well, I'd be glued.
Look, and I'll see if I get on his Christmas card list. We'll see how that goes. But enough about that. But talk. So you're on Twitch. You and your wife have been doing classic gaming during the lockdown and pandemic and everything. Talk us about that.
Well, I mean, just very quickly, so we are Mikey and Janie on Twitch, and we do a bit of classic gaming, which is why I'm kind of surrounded by old computers that you'll have never even heard of, like the Commodore 64. Now,
as someone who has watched Angry Video Game Nerd, I know of them, but I've never played them.
Right, well, we didn't have many either when we started, and what happens is your viewers are so great, as you will know, great community around us, and they send us all this stuff. So we've got like so much like 80s tech in here now. And basically we play old games and consoles, but we also like watch old shows as well. So we'll react to 70s, 80s, 90s TV shows, which is fun, like on all kinds of levels. A lot of the stuff that we react to is old game shows, so we evolved into doing our own game shows. So we recreate like Bullseye, Strike It Lucky, Play Cards Right, and we do it in here. And so yeah, we've gone into like recreating game shows and stuff. So we do lots of different stuff, but it's all like nostalgia. You know, it's all about just feeling happy about like going, because you know what nostalgia is like. It just is nice. It's like a warm blanket, and we're all about like giving people a warm blanket for a couple of hours, escape from life, just hang around with us, and we'll sit and watch some old adverts for 2 hours. And that's what's so beautiful about Twitch, and I'm sure it's the same with you on YouTube, is like the relationship you have with your community. They're like your friends. They end up like your friends, and you know everybody by name. And we just share this like love of old stuff, and you get to experience mine and Janie's relationship, which is fractured and abrasive. So you know, it's like real hardware, real arguments. You know, sometimes you catch us on a good day, sometimes you catch us on a bad day. It's just all real, and it's been a real saviour, man, during lockdown. Because like as a performer, you work in telly as well. You'll know everything just went. And so like the Twitch streams became our social life, our only income, like everything. And we've just tried to keep everything going now that things are starting up again. So yeah, twitch.tv/Mikey and Janie. It's just a lovely place to come and hang out with lovely people talking about how nice stuff used to be.
Nah, sounds great. There are links in the description to the Twitter account and to your Twitch as well. But 2 questions real quick, and then I'll let you get to your special meal, whatever's been prepared for you.
Thank you.
We got Hey Jay in the chat asking, where did you get the K9 from?
Oh yeah, good question. So, oh god, wrong one.
Oh,
wait a minute.
We see it all.
Hang on, wait. That one, right? Okay. Zoom in. That one. Got it? Yeah? See it?
Yeah, we see him. We see him.
So, this was created with Matt, what's his name? Matt Irving? Irving?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. This was created using the measurements of his K9, which is the one that was used for the beat up K9 in School Reunion. And it was for a stage show.
Okay.
And watch this now. How weird is this, right? It's millimetre accurate to the original K9, but it's made out of what's called like plasterboard.
Okay.
So here we go. Watch this. I can hold it with one hand.
See, you could have just said that this is a metal authentic K9, and we would have just called you like Giga Chad Mikey, able to lift K9 with one arm.
Yeah, totally. But he's made out of plasterboard, so
nice.
He's awesome. He needs a bit of TLC, to be fair. I need to find a prop maker who can help him a bit with his ears. But yeah, and I've had him since I was a single man. Oh god, I remember that. I've had him since I was a single man, and I used to just like carry him around from flat to flat. And then when I got married, Jane put him in the attic. And then when we started the channel, I was like, I think people would like to see him. Can we bring him down?
Well, on the shelf behind you, behind where K9 was, is that like a cartoon photo of you both there?
Yeah.
So that's a great metaphor for the relationship, isn't it? You move K9 and then all of a sudden you two can prosper together.
Yeah, spot on.
K9's bringing people together.
Do you know what that is?
That's the Bullseye mascot, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's an original Bullseye that one of our fans gave to us at a convention.
Nice.
Yeah. So we got loads of like weird stuff that, yeah.
But one last Doctor Who thing before we let you go. Because you mentioned Commodore 64. Wasn't there like a 7th Doctor Sylvester McCoy Dalek Attack game on Commodore 64? Has that crossed over?
So there's a 6th Doctor game It's called like Doctor Who and the Mines of Terror
Okay.
on the Commodore 64. And then there's a 7th Doctor game, which is on the Amiga, which is there.
I think that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is called Dalek Attack. Mm-hmm. And then there's a game in the 90s, which is on PC, which is called Destiny of the Doctors.
Yeah, I've got someone very kindly donated that to me ages ago, and
mate, you've got to watch. Have you seen the Anthony Ainley stuff from that?
Yes, because it's on the DVD for Survival.
It's hilarious.
I can't play those clips on my laptop because of a format thing, but you can get them, like, you can watch them straight off the disc, but not in game. It's really annoying.
Oh, right. Well, they must be on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah.
They're absolutely brilliant. Like that's like for me peak Ainley watching those. But yeah, Doctor Who's like relationship with gaming is a bit hit and miss in the 80s. It's only really like probably from like Moffat onwards they start to embrace, kind of like creating proper computer games.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Colin Baker and the Mines of Terror is absolute joke. It really is.
Have you played that
any sense.
On Twitch? Have you played that on stream?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It's just like there's just like a cat. They were like, oh, he's got a cat. We'll go with the cat. It's like so random. It's so totally random.
Before you came on, we were talking about there's a charity book with the Doctor Who Appreciation Society, and it's Colin Baker on the cover, surrounded by cats. So
amazing.
They've really leaned into that.
I really recommend, and I mentioned it to you, but I say it to the chat as well. Dig out fanzines from the 80s. They're just so hilarious. They're so hilarious. Like, they're brilliant. And I'll send you a private message about the book I've got with the fanzines because it's just brilliant. It's edited by Paul Cornell, if you know who he is.
Yeah. He's been on stream.
Has he? Amazing. He's so much fun. But yeah, he edited this collection of like fanzines and it's just a joy, absolute joy.
But what else has been a joy has been this conversation. Mikey, thank you so much for joining us on this evening. We'll let you get to your specially prepared meal with your wife. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
No, thank you. And like I say, I haven't had the chat up because I wasn't sure how it would go. But I just want to say to the chat, hi. And you like hopefully in the future I'd like to join the chat when we watch because I often watch this stream and it's this is a great little community. I can see that it's obvious.
No, well, the chat's been generally positive and pretty happy.
Good.
I think we're all good. But now everyone's talking about that bloody Boris Johnson vote that's recently happened. So.
Oh my God! What an absolute nightmare!
I know. Well, so that's my next 10 minutes on stream, I guess.
Oh God, the stuff that people get away with is unbelievable, isn't it?
But that's a topic for another time, though.
Did you see that Sue Grade karaoke thing?
That was embarrassing for everyone involved.
Oh, get a grip, honestly. GB News, come on, man.
Pre-pandemic crimes, get out of here. Oh God. Anyway, but yeah, Mikey, thank you so much for your time this evening. It's been great chatting with you.
Pleasure, mate. Hope to speak to you soon. And I'm going to send you some recommendations and make sure you listen to Stranded. You're going to love it.
Yes, I shall. Thank you so much, buddy. You take care, man.
Pleasure, mate. All the best, everyone.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, that was good. I had no idea what I was in for, but yeah, that was good. Yeah, even when the original chat that he did with Kevin back in 2020, I hope I emphasized this maybe enough in the original video. I didn't get the sense that Mikey was like, "Girl, women shouldn't be on TV. What are these bloody Muslims doing in Demons of the Punjab?" Like, I didn't get that impression at all. But it was good to chat with him about his experience on that and reflecting on it as well. And like I said, when I first did that original video, about 2 or 3 weeks later, Mikey followed me on Facebook on the Mr. TARDIS Facebook page. But by that time, I wasn't using Facebook anymore. I've not used that for several years now. I'm more on Twitter and Discord and such. But it was good to chat with him, and I didn't know that he'd been following me for so long. So that was all interesting to go to and chat about with him.